Hey creatives, and welcome to Magical, Mystical, Mythical Monday. If we have never met before, my name is Kim and I'm a creative freelancer with a passion for film and the written word. And if we have met, welcome back. And on today's Magical, Mystical, Mythical Monday, we're talking steampunk. Wait, on Magical, Mystical, Mythical Monday? That's right, steampunk. Let's get started. Alright guys, so I know that steampunk seems like a odd thing to talk about on Magical, Mystical, Mythical Monday, but a lot of steampunk has a very magical element and some even have a mystical element, and so we'll talk about a couple examples at the end of the genre in film and the written word. But first, let's talk about the 5 elements that are super key to steampunk, which, by the way, in 2010 was put into the Oxford Dictionary, so it is legit. It has always been legit, but now more people know what it is. So the 5 elements that define steampunk can be kind of wrapped up into different, they can all mean different things to different, there's all kinds of different types of steampunk, I think is what I'm trying to say. So you have cyberpunk, you have steampunk, you have, dungeon punk, I think is something. So it's taking steampunk and then genrering it out to fantasy and sci-fi and horror. Let's talk about the 5 main elements that and you can utilize it in any way you want. So the first element is a nostalgic view of simpler times. It's very much centered about romance. Like almost every steampunk themed piece of work has a certain romance to it, because I think in our minds sometimes we think romantic equals simpler, and it goes back to a different time period. A lot of the time the Victorian age, it seems to be the center, but you can spin it any way you want. Just as long as it has these 5 elements in it, it should be still housed underneath the steampunk genre. So the next element is a retro element, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the simpler time romantic feeling. Is it tends to be set in the past. Now, I don't think, for me, that it's limited to be in the Victorian age. I think you can play with the thought process, because I will say to you, as an example, I would say there are steampunk-like qualities in Joss Whedon's Firefly. There are steampunk-like qualities in that movie, but it's not set in the past, it's set in the future. So you can use elements of this to drive whatever story you want if you like the aesthetic and the principle of steampunk. So though typically it would be in the past, what if you took the past and made it the future? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So another element of steampunk is the fuel element. This is something that is super key to steampunk. It is no fossil fuel. That's why a lot of the times it is set in Victorian age, because that was the steam era. So hence the name steampunk. So it has to have an alternative form of fuel. So steam is the primary idea, but as an example, you could have magic be your story's version of steam. As long as it's not fossil fuel, you're still within the housing of steampunk. Another element is the contraption element, and this is basically, has lots of cool innovations and gadgets, but they're all powered by whatever your chosen form of fuel is. So of course steam. They're all things that are super familiar to us, but maybe couldn't have even been thought of without the use of this fuel source. So it makes it look futuristic with still looking antique-y. Actually, it's really a cool aesthetic, to be truthful. Like, I'm not even sure I wouldn't put it as like a whole room of steampunk themed furniture and that kind of stuff. That would be kind of cool, actually. Okay, whoop, sidetrack, bright shiny thing, squirrel kind of idea. All right, and then the last element that we're going to talk about is the materials element. I've already talked about the fact that steampunk doesn't use fossil fuel, right? It has to be some sort of alternative fuel source. It also doesn't use plastics. There's no plastics, so there's a lot of copper and wood and natural elements and materials. So I think those are key. That's key to the whole aesthetic, to the whole principle, to the whole idea. So guys, that's 5 elements of steampunk that you can use to create whatever kind of cool story you're thinking of. And so some examples of steampunk, let's talk about the examples. Examples of steampunk in film are movies like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Sherlock Holmes, anime Full Metal Alchemist, and in literature, the granddaddies of them all, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells. Of course, there's plenty of more examples in literature. Just dive into it. If you guys are super interested interested in steampunk, honestly, Google steampunk, and I'll put some links to some great assets down below. And guys, a lot of those links will be affiliate links, so thank you ahead of the time for supporting the channel. And guys, that's it. So if you dig steampunk, check out all those assets down below. And if you guys, you know what? Let me ask you guys, what's your favorite steampunk movie, book, film, anime? And have you ever even heard of steampunk? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's get this dialogue rolling. If you dig the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you definitely are digging on Magical, Mystical, Mythical Monday, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And guys, that's it. Until next time, safe journeys.